call EOD. We're gonna have to cordon off the area, and we are gonna be out here for another like 2 hours. So God bless my leadership at the time. They're like, hey, bring me Marty. You stay here. They used to call me Marty, and go bring me another 203 gunner. We're gonna see if we can blow up these rockets ourselves.
Oh,
So we did, and we got out on the second shot. We blew the truck up. It was exciting. We were laughing. We had a good time. Now there's the threat is gone, right?
Yeah.
Truck is gone. Nothing's there. There's no one in the truck, so we didn't have to call anything up. So we left. We got back to the base, and within coming back to base, you see all of our chain of command waiting outside. And normally, out of every patrol, when you come back and get debriefed, only the leadership and key leaders would go in, right?
Yeah.
They wanted everybody. So we knew, we're like, what did we do? Like, no.
Did we fuck something up?
Oh, this is the best part. So we go in there and they ask our lieutenant straight to his face, so did you guys find anything tonight? And he's like, no, sir, nothing. So you had an uneventful night. Like, Roger, sir. He's like, you didn't find any explosives, any UXOs, anything that we're looking for. He's like, and he hesitated. I think that's where I was like, man, you should have just, at that point, you knew we should have went, but he stuck to his gun. He's like, no, sir. And he's like, and he talks to, there's this little, what are the intel people? S2, I want to say.
Okay, yeah.
They run the intel, the drones are like, bring up the feed.
Oh, shit.
There was a Predator drone in our vicinity and saw the whole thing. So when you see it, it even looks funnier on video because it's all infrared, right? So you see like two dudes, which I think it was me and the lieutenant, seeing the truck, pointing. You see, they can't see what we're saying, but you see like
you can
confusion,
see the arms movement. And
then you see us roll back, and then you see a little pause, and you see two dudes, the 203s come up, lob one round each. The second guy hits it, and the platoon sergeant being excited, and then coming back, and it's like the whole thing was there, man. And like it was, I remember just being in the back, kind of like I had that weird smirk on my face, like they caught us. But we got in trouble. It wasn't that bad. But it was one of my funniest moments because like even my platoon sergeant, he came out of the meeting.
You guys got in trouble because you didn't call it in, or?
That's exactly what they wanted us to call it in. You know, still you got to follow procedures, right? Just like anything else.
Yeah.
So it was pretty funny. It was one of those things, and then like so our actual commander, he wasn't that mad. He thought it was funny, but he's not going to say anything to the colonel, right?
Yeah.
So on our way out, he goes, "Hey guys, listen." He's all, "Listen, numbnuts. Next time you decide to do something stupid like that, call in that you need visual, but call them on the other side of the grid, so all the assets go that way, and then you guys are in the dark." I was like, genius. This dude has done it. Man, that was one of my most memorable moments, my second deployment, just because the stuff like that we would do and get away with or get in trouble. But it was an eye opener. That was one moment that I love telling my soldiers, one of my funniest stories. But going back to closing Iraq out, right? So I don't know how familiar you are with Iraq, but there were tons of bases that were huge. You know, pretty much I'd call them small cities because they had everything you could imagine, like immaculate dining facilities, shopping. It was ridiculous. Like it was insane. Well, I ended up taking block leave toward the end of my deployment because that's how I like to take my leave. Because if I take it too early, you're stuck there.
Yeah.
You know, but if you take it toward the middle.
Now, were you on these deployments that were like, so some Army deployments are a year and some are a year and a half that I've seen? Were you on the year or a year and a half?
Year.
Okay.
The first deployment was our longest. I think it was like 14 months, but all the rest were just a year. But I remember taking leave toward the end, and they flew us back to one of the big cities or one of the big bases. I think it was like Camp Liberty or Stryker. And then from there, we're going to get on a bus to go to Kuwait. And we had turned it over to the Iraqi army at that time. It was crazy. It was like, I remember going to that base in my first deployment and how it was like its own city. It was torn down. They were tearing it down. Like there was no U.S. forces there. We're stuck in one area. I was like, we're going to die here. Like this is insane. There was no security. They had taken down the fence. We had T-barriers. My first deployment out. Now it was like a chain link fence.
There were no Iraqi security walking around or
nothing. They had some. I'm not going to discredit them, but they had totally like that base. Like itself could have ran itself. Like it was a city. If anything happened, they could have ran it perfectly. But and it's their country. They could do whatever they want. But it was kind of weird seeing that happen. And then going more into the future in my leave, when we closed Iraq out, we watched everything. The same thing kind of happened. We stayed in Kuwait the last 5 months of my second deployment in case anything happened. We'd get called back in. But every now we'd watch the Predator drones fly over, and you would see all the bases we built, all the stuff we did being torn down. Even some of the schools, this is the sad part, even some of the schools and really big things we did for some of the communities torn down.
Well, I can tell you that the times I was there, the infrastructure was the questionable part. And so, like, I was attached to the Seabees a couple times. Um, and one of the times we were in Iraq and they were building infrastructure from 05 to 06. And it's amazing just how when you're going through the country and you get to these small towns that there is no electricity, there is no running water, there is no sewage. And then the military comes in and they build schools and they build electricity and they run electricity there and they, you know.
And we teach, and that's the part I wish that we would publicize more. It's funny. I'm going to go off track real quick, but did you chance to go to the Burleson Memorial this weekend for the Veterans Day?
No, I didn't.
It was pretty cool, but I did like that they shout out. It kind of made my stomach hurt a little bit because it is the truth. And I tell my kids this: at Ebola's vets, the Vietnam vets had it the worst.
Right? Oh, I agree.
They're still not well. I like what Burleson did. I want to say it was the mayor or it might have been the mayor.
This was downtown.
This was downtown here just this weekend. But he's like, "Hey, welcome back, Vietnam vets." And it just hurt me. Like he said, "We love you," and it's the truth. Like we do love them. It sucks that it took this long for them to get appreciated. It's shitty. It made my stomach hurt a little bit because going back to what I was going to tell you about the schools, no one ever talks about the good we do for these countries. Yes, there's bad stuff that happens. It's casualties of war, right? But like you were saying about Iraq, there were cities. I will never forget this little city. We pulled a 24-hour shift. We're off 6 hours and then another 14 just for they could have a school with like plumbing and everything. Yeah. And these little kids had nothing. When that school opened up, so they had it all under T-barriers so it wouldn't get messed up while the engineers were building it.
Yeah.
And once it's done and they moved the T-barriers in, I saw these little Iraqi kids and their eyes lit up. They had never seen a jungle gym like that before. Soccer field. It was like people don't see that. I wish that was published as much as like the bad parts of the, stuff we do down there. Just like I said, the Vietnam guys had it bad because all people here heard was all the bad things, not the good things.
When we would roll through, these small, like completely, like there's tents and camels, and we would toss footballs and soccer balls. I mean, you toss a soccer ball out there to those Iraqi kids and they would just go crazy.
No, and people don't see that. We did a lot for them. Like you said, building these buildings, there's towns that didn't have electricity. And this is, like I said, that deployment was 2011, no electricity. And all you do is you do a small thing for one city and their life changed completely. And it's insane. I wish that was pushed more in the media too, how much good we do as well.
Well, the media, I mean, this day and age, the media really focuses on the bad stuff. They want that shock and awe on every, if even Fox News, you watch it, every report is breaking news. I mean, it gets to a point where it's not breaking news anymore, but everybody wants that the horrible stuff that's going on, the shock and awe. And I remember as a kid, you would watch the news and there'd be one bad thing going on, but they would talk about puppies or these good things that are going on, and you don't see that in the news anymore. And that's horrible because we did do a lot of good over there.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, we need to focus on the good. But that was my eye opener to second deployment, seeing that kind of stuff happen. And it kind of hurt just because you're like, man, we did all this and they're going to tear it down. Like,
it's so hard when you leave and you give it back and then you see pictures of it later on and it's destroyed. And you're like, man, we put years of hard work and millions of dollars into that and they just destroyed it.
No, yeah, absolutely. And it was all, like I said, closing out, making history, seeing all the stuff. The last 5 months, I won't lie, we're stuck in Kuwait playing like QRF pretty much. And that was kind of boring. For anybody who has been to Kuwait after 2012, I am terribly sorry because our unit was the first unit to actually train it and make it like a garrison. We held the first EIB there, Expert Infantry Badge. Yeah. We held the first mock gunnery. Like we did training there like you were in the rear.
Really?
Yeah. So Kuwait from 2012 after that was just kind of like another duty station. So I'm sorry, everybody who was to Kuwait afterward. It's totally the first Cav's fault. I take part responsibility.
You heard it here first, folks.
We should have messed up more. First Cav, right? But no, Kuwait was funny because that was the tail end of that deployment. I would say that was more boring and more harsher than being deployed in Iraq. And that's what I always tell everybody who doesn't have a like insight to deployment, which I know the segue we're going to talk about, like send stuff to your soldiers or sailors. But deployment is fun for if you're ever in the military and those vets who've been in. I know for me, as much, as stressful as it was and as dangerous it was actually more exciting and relaxing because I was doing my job. My soldiers were there and I didn't have all the all the things I had to do in garrison, like not walk on the grass, march everywhere. But deployments is where it's at.
I was always itching to deploy. I mean, being in the military is fun, and any chance I got to go, I was like, let's go. Come on, let's pack this up. Let's go. I spent some time in Okinawa, and we went to Korea, and we went to Thailand and Australia. It was just so much fun.
I went to what part of Australia did you go to?
We were doing Crocodile 99.
Where's that at?
It's in the northern, I don't even know what town.
Northeast? Is it Townsville?
Yeah. It's like where they do all the military buildups.
We did the jungle training with the Australian jungle guys.
Yeah, we did. There was Australians there. There was I can't remember who all was there, but we were there. I think South Koreans were there, but it's called the workup back then was in 1999. It was called Crocodile 99, and
I wonder if we went to the same because they have a little training area down there.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I'm pretty sure that's where everybody trains at.
Yeah, because it's like the northeastern part of Australia.
Yeah, where you're like a couple hours north of was it Perth? What's on the east coast there? It's like Sydney, and then there's another town. I think it's my brains are.
No, it's been a while. Just like Thailand, I was in Thailand for a while too.
Were you? I was in Phuket and Pattaya Beach.
No, you said beach. We're nowhere near a beach for the Army. God, now I'm throwing a blank too, but it was.
We were there with our helicopter squadron, and it was eye opening. But Korea was awesome. I loved being in South. We were in Pohang, and Osan and Pusan, and in Pohang, that's where the ROK Marines, the Republic of Korea Marines, are. And it was like -20, and they're out there running in little silkies and t-shirts, and they're carrying their weapons in full packs. And you got this little guy behind them, little short, like 4 foot tall sergeant major, cracking them on the back of the legs with sticks. And we're all bundled up in our winter clothes because we're freezing our butts off because we're spoiled Americans. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's one thing I do respect about people like talk about leadership all the time. Like, oh, I'm a great leader. And it's like, I think there's a different definition between being a great leader when it comes to military and civilians, because what I've noticed, great leaders don't tell you what to do. They show you how to do it. And your subordinates, they will follow you. You don't make them follow you. And I've seen it, like some of the greatest leaders I've had in the Army, like they were out there. They're the most hardest working guys. And they were, and that would motivate me. I'm like, this old dude is out here moving this shit, and I'm complaining, like, no way. And that's the kind of inspiring leaders you really need.
Oh, absolutely. It's so hard when you're in the military and you come back, you get out, and then you try to work in the civilian sector, and you're just like pulling your hair out. Okay, we're gonna get back to this after this short break, and we'll continue on with Victor Martin's stories about being on his second deployment.
At Romika Designs, we're more than just a laser engraving and specialty design company. Much more. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs, and if you can dream it, we can probably make it. We can custom laser cut and engrave on nearly all material. Great for one-of-a-kind gifts, home decor, business and specialty items, or personalized and logo designs created just for you or your company. Allow us to become your go-to gift and specialty project partner. Romika Designs can help make your ideas a reality. We're ready to help you design and create that special gift for any occasion, or engrave your personal or business logo on just about any product. View our designs at romikadesigns.com or simply email us with your ideas. We specialize in custom design and would be honored to have the opportunity to discuss it with you. Call us at 817-400-4040, email info@romikadesigns.com, or visit us on the web at romikadesigns.com.
Out of deck carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleburne, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleburne, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Hey, there's something you forgot to do. It sure is hot. Are you sweating like a dog? Wait, what? Dogs don't sweat. Oh no, you forgot to get your window tinted. Whether it's the kitchen window that sits in the sun for the hottest part of the day, or you just got new wheels, call Sharp Window Tinting in Burleson. 817-615-9379, or look them up on the web, sharpwindowtint.com.
All right. Welcome back to Joe Coe Community Radio. We're talking on Vets for Vets with Victor Martin here. I'm Bobby Riley. Before we get going, I'm going to give a little shout out here. Joe Coe Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneInJoeCo.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch. And the station app is also available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store. Check out our lineup and more at JoeCoCommunityRadio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Patriot Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844-TEXHAIL. That's 844-TEXHAIL. Be sure to dress your arms and more at the Tiffy.com store. That's Tiffy's store here. She sells clothes, and apparently they're amazing. All right, let's get back to this deployment with Victor Martin here and the funny stories he's telling us, because it sounded like it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it, and there's so much. I'm trying to remember some other things going on, but I think last I left off, we're in Kuwait and we closed it out. And I was everybody. It was fun being there, but man, it dragged on. When you make a deployment, a garrison environment, Kuwait was pretty miserable. Like I always tell everyone, when the first question I get, like when I deployed to Iraq, and all, like, how was the weather? Were there like sandstorms and people on camels? And I told them, like, honestly, Iraq's really not like the big city life is not like that. Yeah, it gets dusty. There's those dust balls, but it's just like any other third world country, right?
Yeah.
I was like, Kuwait is what you're thinking of, is when you see the sand hills and the
it's hot as
sandstorm.
shit.
People like, and that's another thing. I'll never complain about the heat. Like the cold, okay. The heat, no, it's just like you get used to it. I always already walking in Kuwait is like someone's walking with a blow dryer hit to your face the whole time.
We stepped off the plane on the garrison in 05, and when we got onto the tarmac, people's boots were starting to melt because it was 140 degrees out. It was miserable. So we, like a lot of these people don't understand that when you get to a country like that, you have to stay at these places like Kuwait or Arif Jan or some of these other places before you push into Iraq or Afghanistan, because you have to acclimate. I mean, we're coming from our part of the world and we're going to their part of the world. So you got to acclimate. And if you just push straight into Iraq or Afghanistan, Afghanistan, that what people understand is it's really cold over there in the wintertime. I mean, you're in the mountains. There's the Hindu Kush mountains there. In the summertime, it's hot. In the wintertime, it's cold. And same with Iraq, is in the summertime, it is hot, but not nearly as hot as Kuwait.
No, Kuwait's its own different.
It's a whole other entity.
That's what, so like I was telling you, so when we closed Iraq out, we left, and it was July time period. So we're back in Kuwait, and that's like the hottest part. I'll never forget. I'm like, man, send me back to Iraq. This is hot. That's
probably why they had the pool over there at Arif Jan, the Olympic-sized pool with everybody laying out in their bikinis from the Air Force.
Let's see, we were in Air Force. We're Army. I always tell everybody, like the Army and the Marines, we always get like not the most glamorous places. The Marines luck out sometimes because they are attached to the Navy, so they get a little alibi. But the Army, it's like, man, well, here we are, camp, go F yourself.
Yep.
There's nothing to do.
Yep.
Good luck. But yeah, it was pretty exciting. I would say Kuwait dragged on, and the fun part was, like I said, we're in Iraq, kind of just doing our own thing, working with the Iraqi army, constantly getting them out of trouble. That was like always I don't want to say entertaining part because that's messed up, but it's always kept you on your toes because that was our bet. It's like, what are they going to do today? What are they going to call us up for?
Yeah.
And it could be anything. I think one of the weirdest calls we got, so there was this, it's pretty much a whorehouse. That's what it is, right? And the Iraqi people, they had it. They didn't care about it. But I guess the Iraqi army had said that they had sold weapons going back and in.
To the whorehouse.
Through the whorehouse. So they, yeah. So
that was just a Marine with the big schlong.
Could have been. You never know. But so we told them like, well, do what you have to, because at that time, again, the Iraqi army also has to abide by rules. They have to get search warrants. They have to go through the local city. We're trying to get them, like us, domesticated. So they went through it. They couldn't get the paperwork. It was like week 3, and they hit us up again. They're like, hey, we know there's weapons in here. Like, can we get some help? So I remember going down there. I'm at E5. I'm telling my soldiers, like, all right, we're going to go. We got to clear this building. It's a whorehouse. The look on all my soldiers' faces. You know how excited they were?
Yeah.
And I told them,
I want to see boobies.
Well, here's the thing. I forgot to say my first deployment. My first deployment was the first time I've been to an Iraqi whorehouse, because some dude who shot at us ran into the whorehouse to hide. I saw things I don't want to see again. It's not it's not American kind of style.
Yeah.
It's rough. All right. So I looked at my soldiers. I'm like, all right, keep that attitude. Keep that attitude. So as soon as we went in there, right, we had a warrant. So we didn't really have to clear the rooms, like knock the door down.
Yeah.
We knocked, they let us in. The smell. It hit. Oh my.
Because they're not real clean over there.
Oh my God.
You don't have a maid cleaning up the rooms after the guys are done.
And I had one dude who was just the whole time, like, and I was like, Tucker, go outside. You're going to throw up in here. It is bad. And then there's always, for some reason, some overweight, obese, naked dude just sitting there. And he's like with the youngest girl, almost to where you're like, how old is she?
Yeah.
And of course, he's talking to you bare naked, like having an everyday conversation.
And you put some clothes on, dude.
Yeah, and it stinks. It's musty. And you're just like, dude, really? And I'll never forget, because I'm in there. It was Alpha Team First Squad and Alpha Team Second Squad. We're in there. Lieutenant's trying to talk to them. He's telling, hey, we got intel. There's weapons. Let us search this place. And the dude kind of knew his rights. He's like, you don't have to, you can't search. It's not here. We looked and didn't find nothing. So I guess they did run it, is what we had ended up finding later on, reviewing some feed. But as soon as they found out we were going, because like I said,
they got the guns out.
They moved it out and stuff. But
it's amazing how, even having little communications as they do, they still are able to counter intel us a lot of the time. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we were counter intel'd, and then we're like, well, shit.
I always tell everybody that's another thing people don't understand. Like, when we go to another country to fight, we're fighting in their backyard. They know it better than us. Not to mention, you're the oddball out. So they know who comes down those streets.
Like a sore thumb.
Well, not even that. They know the village. They know who comes in and out every day, who doesn't, who's not supposed to be there. So even if you try to plan something, they know.
Yeah.
And they're smarter. So it's always one that always gets, people, riled up a little bit. It's like, hey, don't go in here. Even though we got this intel, it's not 99%. It's high. It's high. I give the intel guys, the intel nerds, kudos. They're pretty much point on most of the time. But every now and then you get a dud. Yeah. And it could be a bad dud too. But yeah, that was their experience in there, and they hated it ever since then. And I told my Joes when we got back, I was like, what'd you guys think we're going to? You guys think that was going to be exciting? Think you're going to get a lap dance or something too?
Platinum strip club over here,
Oh man, it was horrific. But yeah, we dealt with a lot of stuff. Just bailing out the Iraqi army all the time. And again, like I said, it was kind of always shitty because we're just in MRAPs, and you would just see our Bradleys at the outside of the base just sitting there. And that was always disappointing because, like, man, we worked so hard, trained all year to
We should be rolling in these things.
We should be rolling those things. There they are, just sitting there. But yeah, that's pretty much my second deployment in nutshell. Nothing too excited, just a bunch of I call them gung-ho missions, going out and bailing out the Iraqi army. Or
did you guys ever get in any firefights with your squad or
a little
fire
bit
team or anything?
A little bit, but I would say, and even my first deployment, I always tell everybody, I wasn't compared to. I had a buddy who was in 10th Mountain as well, but at one point in time, 10th Mountain was going Iraq, Afghanistan. So we both got to the same duty station, but he got the Afghanistan ticket. I got the Iraq ticket. We would end up meeting again he was in my second deployment, but he was in a different company. Little logo, I call him. But dude, his firefights compared to our firefight stories, night and day difference. I'm talking about, he said, what's that guy who has his own TV, Restrepo? You ever watch that series, Restrepo, the medic? The 10th Mountain soldiers who were stuck up there. Third ID, I'm sorry.
No, I don't think so.
So there's it's a famous. It happened. They got messed up. They got ambushed. They fought on for hours. My buddy Logo was in that dude's same squad.
Is it a movie?
I don't know if they made a movie. I know they have a series of it. But long story short, comparing his firefights to mine, like I would tell him, like in Iraq, it was like pop, 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 pop,
or an ID here,
pop, 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 and then we'd follow them, and that was it. It was small, short. I can't even like But again, the adrenaline's rushing. But I don't think any firefight lasted longer than 5 or 10
Yeah, and
minutes.
some of those ones that are up in those little FOBs up in the Hindu Kush, they would be above, on the ridge line above, and they would just be fighting for hours.
Yeah, that's what my buddy would
hours
tell
and
me.
hours and hours.
Yeah, and because we would compare stories, and he would be like, dude, he's like, one time it was like we couldn't go to bed. It was like 12 hours straight. It happened like he said about 5 at night. They kept going. He's like, we finally, day broke. He's like, I think he's like their whole cob. They're like, oh, we're good. They settled down. They went to open their MREs, and it's like they tactfully waited, knowing that the soldiers would eat.
Gonna eat.
Then they start shooting again.
Yep.
But it wasn't like I was everybody. My Iraqi firefights, they were just very short, sporadic, nothing too like. I think the most we ever engaged were maybe 3 dudes at once. But IEDs and mortars were the biggest ones. I think another crazy story I have was we finally got shower trailers in this small base we're at. And before all we had were the shower bladders.
Yeah.
And we had them, and they worked pretty good, but it kind of sucked. Like, you don't got no hot water, but
No, it's ice cold,
ice cold. But we got trailers, so we're so excited. There were 4 trailers finally taking a shower, and they had the latrines inside, so we didn't have to use the porta johns either. So
Really?
I had 4 latrines and 8 showers. So we were spoiled this time. We had just got them shipped in.
For those of you that don't know, most of the latrines are porta johns, and when you're trying to take a shit in a porta john that's full
At 120 degrees.
it's like cooking a chicken in an oven.
It is miserable. But so we got spoiled, but those didn't last long, because that night I'll never forget. So all throughout both bases, they have little what are they called? Bomb shelters. So if we get hit, you're supposed to run into them, right?
Yeah.
So you get desensitized to it real quick. Like, the alarm will come on and say incoming, and you're supposed to stop whatever you're doing, dive into the nearest shelter,
Yep.
right? I just got off patrol.
Bunkers.
Yeah, bunkers.
Yeah,
there we go.
bunkers, they call it.
So I had just got off patrol. I just took my kit off, because you have to keep the kit all the way until the shower. So I just took it off. There's like a little place right before you can shit and everything. Put it down. I'm sitting down. I'm ready to use the bathroom. I just sat down.
And they
Incoming.
Yep.
Incoming. And I sat there. I'm like, you know what? If it's my time, it's my time.
I'm washing my balls.
Well, no, I was taking a dump. I wasn't even in the shower. If it was in the shower, I would have just not
Yeah.
even left. But I was in there, and then the guy next to me, I just hear the door open, and he screams like, "We're gonna die!" And he's running out butt naked, pants still around his ankles. And I'm like, man, that guy has some dedication. And I remember after the alarm goes off, you have to get 100% accountability. So did my business, cleaned up, went outside, and I see everybody who's in the same bunker as that guy, like, yelling at him, like, man, you didn't even wipe your ass before you came in here. Like, we had to sit here, and it stunk so bad with you. And I'm like, oh man. But fast forward a couple days later, that shower that I was in, that trailer, actually got blown up the next day, or a couple days later. So
Really?
yeah, we lost our showers. We had one, but they would end up giving it to the females because they have priority,
Yeah,
because
well,
they need it more than us.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and so there was only one trailer left after that. I'm like, man, I was like, had that been me a week later, I would have been gone. But hey, I would have had that comfortable shit.
Yeah, it's crazy how when you're in garrison, behind the wire, and you think everything's fine, and then the Iraqis or the Afghanis will go out, and they'll set up these rockets like a couple of miles away, and it's rough. They just kind of lean them against a rock and then launch them. So this rocket comes in just with nowhere to hit. It just hits randomly. And then all of a sudden you hear the sirens come off, rocket attack, rocket attack, rocket attack. And then, you have to go to your bunker, but you don't know where the hell that rocket's going to hit. If it's going to hit inside the wire, outside the wire, if it's going to hit the DFAC, if it's going to hit, the talk, if it's going to hit,
And they were
birthing.
trying for like the big buildings.
Yeah.
They always wanted the big ones, but like you said, they don't know. But that was, and like I said, I was at that point, and when you get to that part of deployment where you're just like, well, if it's my time, it's my time. Like, what am I going to do?
And you can tell the seasoned guys that have been there more than once, because they're not running around all scared. They're just like, oh, I got to finish shitting, or I'm going to finish eating. And they're the only ones in the DFAC eating, and these, the new guys are like, oh my God, we're going to die. We got to run. We got to run.
And I think that's bringing that back. It's funny, like, now being a civilian, like, maybe we've been desensitized. Like, stuff will happen where it's like, oh, it'll be all right. It'll buff out. Nothing happened. Like, I forgot where we were. There was a range nearby, and somebody shot, and everyone else starts freaking out. I'm like, oh, just one shot. It was too far. We're good. Don't worry about it. And everyone's like hiding. But there was like a range at a park we're by some place, and people were freaking out. I'm like, no, that's way too far, man. I could tell if it's close. You'll know if it's close.
Well, there's probably a berm between us and them, so we're good.
Yeah. But no, it totally, you get, like you said, tell the people who've been there for a while. Because I remember meeting some guys. And they're like, oh yeah, we get hit by sniper fire every weekend.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh really? Like it's nothing. He's like, oh yeah, they're horrible snipers.
Well, you're right. You get desensitized to everything, to the death, to the the attacks, the violence, and even to each other. I mean, a lot of people don't understand that when military, when one military person sees another military person, whether they're retired or still in, and you call each other, hey, fuck face, and you're like, hey, shithead. Those are terms of endearment. I mean, you get desensitized to, oh, hey, how's it going, buddy? No, it's like,
We don't
hey,
talk like
shit
that.
stick, get over here.
That's why you have to have thick skin. And I think that's another thing I like learning. Like I always had kind of thick skin growing up, but the Army really reinforced that. The military in general, like you can get it nowadays, it's a different world, but at the same time, like to me, I'd rather have someone tell me like, hey, you sucked at that, work harder. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Thank you. Rather than say like, good job, you tried your best. Like to me, that's more condescending actually. I don't know about you, but when I hear somebody tell me like, good job, you did, it's like, really? It's just different mentality. But you see that happen a lot.
Yeah, my dad used to pound into my head that you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail a lot at life. But if you don't keep failing, you're never gonna succeed. And it's so funny because going through Navy boot camp as a corpsman, and then go to Corps school, and then I went to FMSS, which is the Field Medical Service School, to be an FMF corpsman, to be with the Marines. It was all like, just like, oh, they yelled a little bit, but it was then when you get with the Marine unit, it's a whole new world. It's like, holy shit, this is real life. They're the gunny screaming at you, calling you fuck face. And I'm the doc. You can't call me that. Get over here, fucking doc fuck face.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
My favorite was like, come here, fucker. My name is, I don't give a fuck what your name is.
It's
Get over
fucker
here
right now.
Yeah. You're just like, oh, you're right. And then like, it's funny though, because as a soldier, I always tell myself, when I become a leader, I'm going to be poised, collect, respectable. And then you get to it and you're the same. You're just like,
Yeah.
All right, fuckers. And it's like,
what the fuck did you fuckers do now?
And this is like, I had an old squad leader tell me this, and it's so bad, but it's my mentality. And I'll explain it after I say it, but you're going to look at me like, all right, bro, I'm going to call sharp on you. But he always told me, fuck Joe first before Joe fucks you. Because when he fucks you, he's going to fuck you hard. All right. So when you say it like that, it sounds horrible. But when you break it down, what he means is you got to be hard on the soldier first. Because if you're not 100%, concise on what you're saying, like,
He's
hey, don't go do drugs, don't go do this. He's going to go do it. You're going to get in trouble. And now your weekend with your wife and kids is gone because you're escorting this kid back and forth between jails or extra duty.
Yeah, because he got a DWI or was at the red light districts when he shouldn't have been, or broke Cinderella curfew or whatever it may be.
And it's sad. Like, it sucks you have to be so hard on these guys, but there's a reason. And some of it, they are a little naive. There are some soldiers who I give the benefit of doubt, but there's just others who are just knuckleheads and, they are wine. So you got to help them learn to unwind the right way. Because my biggest thing, I would tell my soldiers, like, I know you guys aren't old enough to drink. I remember walking into the barracks once, and one of my soldiers, we had just got him, and he had, what are they called? A dolly full of beers. And he looked at me and he looked like a deer in the headlights, like, I'm done. Sorry, Martin's here. And I looked at him like, I know you're not 21. And he knows I'm talking about him. Hopefully he's listening. But I was like, as long as you promise me you're going to stay here, you're not going to do anything stupid.
I'm not going to fuck your career.
And if anything happens, you call me before the MPs come.
Yep.
And that was it. Because, I there's some soldiers you kind of trust with that. And I understand that it's going to happen. And if I tell them no, they're still going to do it, but then they won't tell me. And it's going to be more work, or at least if I tell them, don't do it, it is wrong. However, be responsible, call me. It saves a whole much more time.
Well, the good leaders out there versus the ones that aren't, because the good leaders are the ones that don't wreck your career over a mistake. I picked up E4 when I got back from Okinawa, HM3, and we got jacked up one night. Me and my partner did, on a whole half gallon of Jack, and I didn't show up to the clinic the next morning. And you know what? My chief didn't hammer me. My master chief didn't hammer me. They knew what a good worker I was, what a good sailor I was. So I got some EMI. I had to strip and buff the deck for a week. That was it. But I didn't get in trouble. Like they knew that I wasn't that Jack, that kid that was, jacked
messed up.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I tell everybody. So I've been through a lot of Army terms. So when I was in Fort Drum, they made us qualify. I don't want to call it hazing, but
Yeah.
you'd wear your full kit and you'd have to hang upside down in a tree
Really?
as long as you can, like a koala,
That's awesome.
and you'd pass out. But I've had some horrible smokes. I'm talking about like one NCO came. He wasn't even my NCO, but he came in and the barracks were a mess. And he found one random Joe who was awake and said, "Tell all your friends to clean this up. I'll be back in 2 hours." That Joe went back to bed, didn't tell anybody. That NCO took us all out. We were going up and down the hill all Saturday. Right. So I've had some worse ones, but I always tell everybody my worst smoking to this day that I remember that really fucked with me hardcore.
Qualified. That's awesome.
And now he's actually Sergeant Major Ditzler.
Really?
I respect this man so much. Love him. He was my platoon sergeant in first cav, and then he became a first sergeant later on. But he's kind of what I want to be a leader. He would lead by example. He would show you how to be done. He would let you do it. If you failed, he'd help you out. And after that, you were on your own. But he was PT stud. He did everything, he was by the books, but he also played in the gray area. Like you said, if someone got in trouble, he'd be like, let me talk to the soldier. Let me see what's going on. And most of the time he'd find out like, hey, the reason the soldier's acting up is he has marital problems or he has finance. Let's help him. And let's see if that changes him. Like,
yeah, because he went out in town and bought a brand new Mustang with 29.99% interest, and now he's broke.
So yeah, and he was all about the soldiers. Well, I'll never forget, we're having a closeout formation. It was Friday. Oh no, I want to say it was like a Thursday. It was like a 3-day weekend one, so it was earlier than normal. And I had ate something so bad for lunch, I had bubble guts. So I was like, all right, I'll go to the bathroom. I'll make it to the formation. I'll sneak in through the back because I was late. No one will catch me, right?
Of course.
But for some reason, I won an award that day.
Oh, and you weren't in
Yes. And they called my name and I wasn't there. So they called me out of ranks. And I remember getting there and, my platoon sergeant's up there. He has my award for me. I'm like, oh man, he's pissed. Formation breaks. He asked me, where were you at? And I tried to tell him, hey, I was in the bathroom. My stomach was hurting. He's like, you couldn't tell your team leader. You couldn't call me. You couldn't do anything.
Exactly.
He was right. And all he said was, I'm disappointed in you. And he walked away. That whole 3-day, it ruined my whole 3-day weekend. I didn't want to go out and drink. I just sat there and I was like, this man,
a disappointment.
This man hates me. And I'll never forget. So Monday comes, and Monday was our very long run day, right? It was normally to get all the alcohol out of your system.
Yeah.
So we form up and I'm like, man, this man's gonna, he's not gonna talk to me. Then he comes up to me and he asks me, how was your weekend? And I was like, it was all right, Sergeant. He's like, are you still fucked up in the head? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I knew you were gonna get messed up once I told you I was disappointed in you. I'm like, what? He's like, I got you, huh? And I'm like, I looked at him. He's like, get your shit together. And I was like, Roger, Sergeant. And that was it. And we were cool after that again. But
those stick with you.
Those do. And he knew.
Getting your ass chewed and yelled at sometimes doesn't, but it's the ones that you respect the most that are just like, I'm just disappointed in you.
And he knew, because even later on that day, he told me, he's like, yeah, I knew you weren't going to do anything that weekend. And he's like, I knew I was going to sit in your head and you were just going to think. And I was like, and he was absolutely right. I sat there like, there's times I was like, I'm like, man, what if I go out and drink and get in more trouble? I'll be more of a shitbag.
Yeah.
But that's the worst thing. And I hope he hears this because I'm shouting out to him. If not, I'll text him later, tell him I still in contact with him. But that one stuck with me. One of the hardest. And it was funny because fast forward to Alaska, one of my soldiers too, I did the same move on him too. He respected me a lot. And
were you in Alaska for just training, or were you
no stationed there for 4 years? And same soldier now. He's all high speed now. He's a staff sergeant. I want to say he's Ranger Tab now. But I'll never forget, he messed up. He was late here. He didn't tell me that he had an appointment and just decided to show up and not show to work. And I was like, really? You couldn't call? You couldn't text me?
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to talk to you. So I just talked to him. I was like, I really want to counsel you. I thought about this. But you know what? I'm not. I think you're a garbage ass soldier. And I walked off.
You did not.
Oh yeah. I told him, I was like, you're a piece of shit. And I walked off. And then that weekend he kept texting like, Sergeant, like he was trying to apologize, but he didn't want to apologize. And Monday came in. And I was like, how was your weekend? And he's like, oh, it was all right. He's like, are you really mad at me? Am I really that trash? He's like, because we had one designated shitbag. He's like, you think that soldier's better than me? And I was like, realistically, I was like, no, he's not. But I knew that would get to you. I was like, did you learn your lesson? He's like, yeah, I should have. I was like, what should he be done? He's like, I should have communicated. I was like, thank you. That's all I care about. And I was like, man. And then I told him the story later on. I was like, you know where I learned this from?
it
happened to me.
Yeah, exactly.
It happened to me. But I tell people like, especially with my soldiers, like my only pet peeve, and even to this day, is communication. Like I get 20 years ago when we didn't have phones and you had to send a runner to go tell somebody, but especially in the military, it's a text away. Like there should be no excuse. I know there's some places that have no reception, but if you know that you're supposed to check in at a certain time or whatever, you have to make, you're a grown ass man.
Absolutely.
And all it takes is a simple, I'm alive. But that's today. And even with my kids, I'm hard to them. I was like, You really couldn't text me that your football game was over. You needed a ride. Like communication.
Yeah.
It works both ways. And then I would always tell my young soldiers, if you're a leader and I say, hey, be here at the cough at 04, you can't just say, oh, the soldier didn't do anything. Communication is both ways. You send the message. If they don't receive it, you try again. As a leader, that's the hardest part as a leader. You're the one trying to reach out to them. Once they blow you off on all communications, then it's on the soldier. But that's always been my biggest pet peeve.
We're getting to the end of the show. We got less than 2 minutes left. I want to take a few moments to talk about veteran suicide. And this is personal to me because I went down this road for years. I didn't know where to turn to. I didn't know what to do. I was suicidal every day for about 3 or 4 years. I woke up every morning and I thought about how I was going to kill myself that day. And when I went to bed, the only thing I could think about was how I'm going to kill myself tomorrow. And it really took me buckling down and understanding what that selfishness would do and how that would affect everybody around me, because it is. It's the loser's way out. It's the easy way out, because you're not going to hurt no more, but everybody else is. So if you're feeling that way, call us. I will sit up all night long and talk with you. I would much rather you be here than not be here and have everybody hurt. So call 988. If you can't call us or call a friend, I promise you, anybody that you've been with, that you've been deployed with, or would much rather listen to you. I mean, what do you say on that, Victor?
Oh, I was going to say real quick, don't think it's a sign of weakness. I'm a prideful son of a bitch, and I would never let anyone know my weaknesses, because I believe in the predator and prey mentality. But I struggled with it too, and I went on a little bit, so I'm not going to relapse in it. But you may think that it's your problem. You may think that it's only you. We've all been there. Someone has thought the same thought, and it could have been as simple as, I'm a worthless piece of shit. I don't fit in society. Like, we've had those thoughts. Reach out.
Well, again, 988, if you're feeling that way, and we want you here, tune in next week, and hopefully we get Angelo out of jail. Thank you for listening to Vets with Vets with Victor and Bobby.
See y'all later.
Hey travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with